Hi, I'd like to take a moment and talk about perspective. Now, you might not think that perspective is all that important in psychological issues, but actually I find it a really interesting way of thinking about things. Panic, anxiety, depression and stress have a habit of sucking you into them as if they've got like a magnetic force, a bit like a black hole actually. So panic, for instance, anxiety, these are like black holes that suck you in, and so that they get bigger and reality gets smaller. So you could say, with total conviction that you feel like you're going to die, but in fact you're perfectly fine. So what we need to do is to think about how to regain a sense of perspective from these problems, because they will always have a tendency to make you feel like you're kind of losing control, to make you feel helpless and hopeless. So I've got 3 tips that you can use to be able to get a bit more psychological perspective. So the first one is bring yourself back to the present moment. Now, the present moment is the only moment that you have to be alive. The past is history and the future is a mystery, and as such, your mind will take you to the past for depression, and it will take you to the future for panic, anxiety and stress, but this present moment is your present moment. And in this present moment, there's nothing wrong with you. All of your problems are likely to be located in the past and in the future. Now you might say, well, yeah, I have a problem and it's this, but actually that's your psychological interpretation of something that's happening in the past or something that's happening in the future. So bring yourself back to the present moment and recognize that this is the moment that you can have choice. This is the moment in which you can make decisions that are useful, or you can make decisions that are not useful. The second thing is to appreciate where you are. In this world that we live in, and most of my audience live in the Western world, you're probably not starving, you probably have somewhere to live. Now you might have difficulties, but a lot of the basics are taken care of. So, we can be pleased and we can be thankful that a lot of the basics are within our control. And the second thing is appreciate who you are. There's nothing wrong with you. You're a good person, you have value, you do the best you can, you try hard, you want to improve and you want to do things well. That's you, right? And so all of the criticism that you might level at yourself, or all of the perceived criticism that you might imagine other people have for you, are typically fantasy. They're not accurate representations of who you actually are as a person. And that's interesting to remember too, so appreciate who you are. And the third tool is this. Find one habit pattern, find one habit and pay attention to it and change it. Now, many of our psychological problems really are habits of thought, emotion, behavior, or context. And so we do the same things, the button gets pressed and we do the same thing. We're a bit robotic in that sense. Find a habit that you can recognize, name it, own it, right? Say, yeah, I do this, yeah, I always do this, yeah, that's me, and change it. An easy way to change it is to do the opposite, because the opposite is typically going against the habit. So, a silly one is if you were smoking, right, we don't smoke. But if you're self-critical, we find an opportunity to not be self-critical, right? But we find the context, we own that habit. You just do one, right? Find a habit that you consistently do that defeats you and do something different. And in that way, in that moment, you're appreciating yourself and you're taking control of a bad habit. And in doing that, you regain your psychological perspective. And the actual perspective is this: the world is big, you're relatively small, but you're also safe. There's nothing really wrong with you. And you can progress and move forward by taking control of your emotional well-being, of owning it, right? That's the power of perspective. Thanks for taking the time to watch and listen. Please leave comments and let me know if you have any questions that we can use as a focus, perhaps for a small video. And we can have more of a conversation about how to help you to move forward.